Good afternoon, everyone. LJ here, the Go Biz Guy, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Today, we have an amazing individual who is just knocking it dead for no pun intended, for his authorship and being an author in West Virginia. So before we get started, let me share with you our sponsor, Lem's Meat Varnish. It isn't just another meat sauce. It's a champion. Their sauces have taken multiple awards for best sauce and barbecue competition throughout the South. When you taste their secret recipe, you will understand why it's a winner. Oh, and by the way, they have a fire syrup jalapeno. It's infused simply with syrup, a hot squirt, a genius, and it has 100 different uses. Get you some on Amazon.com, Amazon.com. All righty. So listen, today I have Stephen Bias. He's a published author who specializes in fiction. And we're going to kind of go through some steps and find out why, West Virginia, Appalachian is so important and everything. So welcome, Stephen.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. So what did you grew up in Barboursville, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
And what did you do that was really fun growing up in Barboursville?
Well, okay, I'm a product of I was born in 73. So, the great thing about Barboursville is when somebody talks about this television show Stranger Things, when they see the 1980s, they did capture it. You went with your friends, you rode your bikes. Your mom screamed at you when the time came for you to put the bikes away and the street lights were on, and we were told to do that. But the great thing about being from this area is that everybody was family.
Okay.
And everybody was close.
Okay.
And when I started doing this, and I didn't start writing books until late in my life, which I want to thank you again because you had me on right after I did Afterwards.
Yeah.
And right before 304 came out. And I was kind of on my journey starting this.
Yeah.
And now I've got my feet wet and I get to talk about things in my books that are really important to me about this area and the state and things like that. So I wanted to give you a quick shout out and thank you for having me on the first time before everything kind of went haywire and so I appreciate it.
That's cool. That's cool. So let's get back to your fun thing and growing up and everything. It's amazing because I can almost relate to you. And sometimes my mom and dad would lock me out of the house. And so, and I forget how old I was, but I was pretty young. And all I did was want to play in the dirt with trucks. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and then sometimes I would just take a leak in the flower bed because I didn't want to disturb my playing. But don't you think it's interesting growing up back then and having fun back then is really a whole lot different now?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is something that I've always said. My daughter, she's 16 years old, and she'll go out during the summer. She'll come in and she'll go, I have a sunburn. Dude, every summer from the time I was 4 till the time I was 16 years old and got my car, dude, we lived sunburned. We were completely sunburned. We're like, gee, I hope this doesn't blister.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we lived outside. We were always outside. The thing is and listen, I don't trash on any of my other creatives. Anybody that's in movies or TV writing or any of that stuff, I don't trash on these people.
Yeah.
But kids stay inside today and they binge watch TV shows. And I'm sure you remember, you had to set your VCR for a Thursday show that you watched weekly. And if you missed it because you had to work or something, you missed it. I mean,
right.
They don't get it. They don't understand it.
Well, and I think it's not so much TV anymore. Is that they're on their iPhone or their Samsung or so the internet has developed kind of a conscience for young people today, and I guess that you can look forward and say, okay, that's good, but I think the more you get back to the roots of growing up back in the day, I think you kind of settled in on some ethics that were established back then too. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So growing up, what did your parents actually do?
My father was a steel worker, and my mom was pretty much one of the biggest plainclothes security officers in the United States.
Dang.
She trained people.
Wow.
She caught shoplifters. So I lived in a household where my father was the goofy one. My father had this great sense of humor and was this fun loving thing. And my mom was the one that you were like, uh-oh. You know?
She was the Gestapo of the family, right?
Yeah. She come in and if she told you, if she said you need to do this, but my mom had a sweet side, but my mom, I always used to make this joke when I was a kid that my mom was the last Girl Scout, because she was so proper and everything was just, she's a good person,
right.
And so that is something that and if you've read 304 Monsters, the character of Ethel, who walks around and talks about, being proper and being the right way and doing the right thing, that's her. I kind of stole that from my mom, so. Yeah, but Dad was the fun one. Dad had the corny jokes and then, the underhanded, backhanded remarks that were fun. He was just a great guy, And
yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Because listen, steelworker, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take a look at the coal mining in West Virginia. You take a look at all of those hardworking. And your mother, I think that what happens, and I don't know, I didn't have really a good family situation when I grew up, but one thing that they instilled on me is a work ethic. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that, when you go back and you take a look at a snapshot of your childhood and where you're brought up at and everything, I think it has a lot to do with it. So, share with me a little bit about your teenage years and about how your interest in writing developed as a teenager.
I was always very, very good at. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Okay, I can see that, and I think you would be very good at it. Yeah.
Well, I have a friend. I have a very good close personal friend named Angie Davis. She's a phenomenal she's a great underground comic that goes and does things. And I realize now that I was right not to do it because
you can go south in a hurry.
Well, I'm too long-winded.
Okay.
She's incredible at going pow, 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 pow and just hitting on all the notes.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not. So doing the storytelling thing was so much, so much better for me. So I always wrote stories. Now I will tell you this, my dad never really encouraged my creative output when I was a kid.
Okay.
Because he always thought I was going to be like him, steel worker, something like. Mom was always like, no, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. The proudest moment of all of this is when I was 49 years old. I walked into my mom's house with my first book and I handed my mom my book. It was the proudest moment in my life. It's the most.
Wow.
Because she had always said, this is going to be it. And she looked at me when she took that book away from me, LJ, and she said, if it's bad, I'm going to tell you. I said, try me. And she called me back and said, I loved every bit of it. So
I love it. Yeah.
So as a teenager, I wrote a lot. Okay. And then I set it to the side because, I had my son when I was very young, and, I kind of went into that mode, but I never got out of it. I would still, storytelling and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I can do this. And, I got really lucky. I got lucky.
Well, okay. Yeah. So, but your teenage years, those are very pivotal years, for you to have kind of a dream about doing this. Now, what was your creative writing? Was it in high school? Was it just, after high school or after the class? How did you start developing your interest in writing?
Journalism class, Miss Hale's journalism class. I started and she would let us do like little goofy things in the back of the paper.
Okay.
And when she let me go, that's when I really shone. And she said, you need to do something like this, which she got a copy of my first book too. I went over to Barboursville Middle School because she's still there. And I gave her a copy of my book.
Wow.
Yeah. I was in 9th grade and writing little goofy things in the back of her newspaper. that we gave out at the school. And she really, her and mom really were like, hey, do something with this. I would write, when you're a teenage boy and you got you a girlfriend, you write the little love letters to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mine were really creative.
Okay. All right.
Mine were really creative because they dug those. I think a lot of them are still out there, even though they cuss my name. They still, this is still pretty nice.
Because and that age is very pivotal. Pivotal, whatever. I've drank too much coffee, can't even talk. But I wanted to be a fireman in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wanted to be a, forest ranger, mm-hmm. and, have a woman out there and keeping her barefoot and pregnant. Okay. And that never happened. It never, ever happened. But as I progressed, it was kind of like, I just went through life and the challenges and everything. And God just kind of set the stone as to my business path and everything else like that. And so you're to be commended to stay focused at a young age, in your writing and your journalism, because evidently it established itself from an early passion, mm-hmm. in ninth grade. It's unbelievable.
Well, also, and I'm going to tell you this, another thing that helps you a lot, helps a great deal, is being from here.
Okay.
Being from West Virginia and being from Appalachia, because we have some of the greatest storytellers and some of the most creative people. That's the great secret about this place. The indie author scene that I am actually a part of has and I'm telling you this right now, I kid you not, I've been around some of the best. I've literally been talked to as a peer by Barbara Kingsolver.
Okay.
And Barbara Kingsolver is the writer of Demon Copperhead. And if you know what like Catch-22 is.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. In 2020, she wrote the Great American Novel. It's one of the greatest novels ever. And she talked to me like a peer, and I've sat with her and got to, but the people that we live with here, okay, like Amanda Hoosier, Caitlin Pace, J.D. Byrne, we have some of the best storytellers in this area. You have no idea. I mean, you really don't. And I get to see these people every day.
That's awesome. And the Vandalia, and I haven't been there for years, but the Vandalia had a circle of storytellers, and they had that because it's so much of the culture of West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so, so let's go back into the backdrop of Appalachian and how important it is to, start writing in West Virginia and kind of connecting and everything. So what does Appalachian really bring to the value of writing?
Okay. Because this is so good. There's such a mystery to this place. Okay. That's the beauty of it. There's so much beauty here. Family values is one thing. Okay. I love the family values here. Okay. And that's something if you've ever read my work, if anybody out there or if you're going to, when I did Afterwards, the whole opening of that, even though it's set in 1805, it has a very family value thing to it that you mm-hmm. see. Mm-hmm. Same with 304. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I love about this place. It's why I think, the opioid epidemic, which I'm not going to get too much into that, but the reason it hit here so hard is because people don't let people go here. They try their hardest to hang on, and that's why it's hit us so hard, and so many people are so shattered here. And it's just the beauty behind Appalachians, and everybody's got a story. A grandfather will tell you a story about a haunted house.
Okay. All right.
Or tell you this incredible story about him and how him and his brother used to go down to this fishing hole and all this stuff. And people here can captivate you. They're just some of the sweetest and nicest people in the world. And I've been to, I lived in Columbus for a little while.
Okay.
People aren't like that over there. I've been out to Vegas. They ain't like that over there. No, it's just
no, and being from California, heck no, they're not like that, and even in a small town, I lived in Ventura, and even in Ventura, people say Charleston's a city and everything. Well, Ventura is much bigger than Charleston, and so they have different words for anyway. I mean, but they weren't his family. My first wife, and I'm not a Mormon because I've had several wives, but, one of the things that attracted me, my first wife was a coal miner's daughter. Okay. And one of the things, being from California, and I went to Liberty University, and she was a nurse. And so at any rate, one of the things that really got my heart about her family was the love and the sincerity and the sincere heart that family had, despite not being a perfect family.
Right.
And I was just mesmerized by the whole family dynamic, because I didn't have a family dynamic, right? Not that I fell in love with a dynamic. I fell in love with my wife, but a coal miner's family. Come on, man. I mean, when I'd go we'd go visit on the weekends with her family. And my first visit to Sophia, West Virginia was interesting because I drove into town and I said, oh my gosh, where's the other half of the street? There's only one freaking side of the street. I said, is there like a development committee that's going to put the other half of this town together?
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like blown away by it. But I think you're right. I think the values set in Appalachia, and define Appalachian for me. I don't think it's just West Virginia. Do you?
No, it's the whole mountain region. It stretches all the way down to Tennessee.
Okay.
It stretches down, and there's places in Virginia that I consider Appalachia, especially Kentucky. Yeah.
Yes.
There's great people all through that area. They grew up church on Sunday, family dinners. We all sat at the table. My family did that too when I was young, until I got 16 and was doing my own thing. We sat at the table. We ate at the table. We talked to each other. That is something that's strongly missing today.
Oh,
and this is not me being the old man yells at cloud thing. Okay. This is me being straight with people. Like I tell my daughter all the time, like I said, she's in there, she's on her phone, or she's binge watching something. I'm like, hey, come in here and eat with us. Hey, come in here and do that, because I want to spend time with her. See, that's another thing I think that Appalachia has. We like each other.
Yeah, right.
We actually like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got some friends that live in New York City, and I'm talking dead center of the city. Brooklyn, all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
They're the most hateful people. I love them. I do. I love them, but they really are. They're the most hateful people. And I'm like, man, if you come here for like a month, you'd be changed.
Well, yeah. I mean, so when I would do business up around the New York area, and the further north I got, up around Pittsburgh, etc., one of the things that I like doing business with those people, because they were maybe so mean and upfront, I could get a yes or no for a $50,000 contract, as opposed here in West Virginia, because it's almost like it validated the good old buddy system and the good old relationship stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different environment to do business in, but I think that's why, and it's sad because I don't know the stats right now on people actually leaving West Virginia, but I think there should be a renaissance of some sort where, parents teach their kids, a tech school, and we get back to dinners, around the table. And so, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Well, okay. That kind of goes into the field that I'm in. There's been a rise in like indie bookstores and kind of a back to nature kind of thing in a younger generation.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'm around a lot of young writers and people like Caitlin Pace, like I mentioned her earlier. she's fantastic, but she literally, she's kind of technically putting it to the side and doing the books now, and the indie bookstore is doing really well. And, Jason Beater, who you've had on the show before, he's got the record store. There's this kind of throwback that's coming, and I'm all for it. I'm all for this. Let's go back to reading, because I try to explain to my daughter and to everybody else, listen, again, not trashing on any other creatives. There's nothing wrong with sitting in your room and binge watching a Netflix show, okay? But I've told her, I said, go get a book. Just go get a book. Give your mind a workout. Have some fun with it, because, someone mentioned this to me the other day, and I think it's something that is really true. And I think because of your age and what we're talking about with history, when I was in school, okay, I could go back and someone would tell me, Steve, I need you to do a report. My social studies teacher would be like, I need you to do a report on the after effects of the Civil War. Okay. And then I had to go get in the encyclopedia or go to the library, and I would learn that, Lincoln was at the Ford Center or the Ford Theater. He got shot by John Wilkes Booth, and I had to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's generation has their phone. They click, who killed Lincoln? John Wilkes Booth. They write that down and they forget it, and it's gone. It's out of their mind. They don't suck these things in anymore. And I think that's why it's important to get people to read books and learn things. And because, it's not that my work teaches anybody anything. I mean, you might learn some things about West Virginia or some stuff like that, but I think that's a problem that we have today, is that people are very forgetful.
Well, the Monsters, West Virginia, I think that's hilarious. I mean, you've got the Ferguson peeps in there,
I do.
And the creativity side about the monsters and everything is unbelievably good. One of the things that I have a difficulty with, and I used to read a lot. I used to read motivational books, and I've gotten away from that just because of the internet, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And I sit there and I try to read, and then I even trying to read the scriptures or something like that. Sometimes I'll just start reading the highlights in my Bible, and I won't read the total content, and so I think it's just, I don't know whether that the internet has corrupted me and not wanting me to read a book, but how is the industry doing overall? Because I think I'm not a minority. I think there's a majority of me that are not reading books. What are your thoughts?
You were the majority.
Oh,
you actually were.
Okay.
You were the majority. But like I said, there's been this unbelievable run now of people buying. Like the West Virginia Book Festival is this weekend.
Okay.
October 19th.
Okay.
Or whenever you air this. Okay. That place will be absolutely filled to the brim with people.
Really?
I mean, the last 2 years I've went there has been absolutely stellar, because there's just this run on people reading again. And when you mentioned 304 Monsters, and I'm not going to try to bring, because you mentioned someone being actually in it. I'm not trying to bring the podcast down. I'll do this real fast. When that book was supposed to come out in August of 2023.
Okay.
And we had a personal tragedy. My son passed away.
Yes.
And what we did is we decided to delay the book. Well, when they delayed it, they said, Steve, what are you doing? You're making changes. And I said, well, I got such an outpouring of love from this area. And this goes back to everything we talk about.
Yeah.
And I actually, in the dedication of 304 Monsters, if you read it, it talks about, I didn't have to buy a meal until September. This all happened in June. People were dropping off food. There's a woman that gave me Long John Silver's. She brought Long John. I don't know who she was. And I'm just being honest. I don't know who she was.
Yeah.
And this was the most amazing outpouring. So what I did is I changed characters' names in the book, and then in the monster guide that just came out that you were talking about, I put people in there that contacted me or sent me text messages.
How cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wanted to throw the love back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. And so it's interesting how events, and I don't want to get into when my wife passed, but the events, do motivate you. And I know grief is a terrible thing for people to go through. And I think that for you to show the love back, I mean, is phenomenal in, the Monsters of West Virginia.
Yeah, I gave them because when somebody sees 304 monsters, they're like, oh, you mean because if you've seen the cover of the book, it's a spider.
Yes,
it's a black widow spider, and it's got
very nice.
The hourglass is the state of West Virginia, and they think that it's the area code, but it's not. What it's an actual counter. There's 304 in the state.
Yeah,
it's a horror book, but I mean, it's fun. I get every day I open my Facebook Messenger and I've got 3 or 4 people that have picked it up that are telling me how much they like it. And even the ones that don't, I've had 1 or 2 tell me that I had one woman tell me that I had a dirty mouth, and I went through the book trying to find what she was talking about.
That's funny.
I'm sorry. And then I had another woman that told me that she doesn't like horror, and I was like, then why did you buy it? But okay. So.
Right. And so you made a transition from a dream that you had as a teenager into reality. And give me a kind of a timeline, because success is not overnight. Success takes time. So what kind of, like, from going from a teenager into reality of doing your first book, what kind of did that look like?
When I got out of high school, I started doing PC repair, and I started doing personal computer repair, and I was doing that. And listen, it's a very thought job. You have a lot,
analytical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's analytical.
Yeah.
So what happened is I would write things down in notebooks, just write in notebooks, and goof off like that. And one day, this woman that I knew that I was fairly close to, she worked at a store that I frequented quite often. She said, her name's Courtney. Mm-hmm. She said, well, I run a little independent publishing company. And I said, really? And I said, well, I always wanted to put out a book. And she goes, well, you should.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
When I left, I'm 47 years old at this time.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know what? Who cares? Go do it.
Yes.
And I turned in 50 pages to her, and she said, I'm going to send this to my editor. I'll get right back with you. And she calls me, and they had just got off the ground themselves. I mean, this was actually being ran out of a makeshift garage that was turned into an office.
Wow.
And they said, finish this, please finish it. It became Afterwards. Afterwards was their first fiction release. It was this massive success for them that brought in Caitlin Pace, who did Mumblings, and then Amanda Hoosier, which I can't say enough great things about Amanda Hoosier.
Wow.
She came in, and we just kept going and going and going. And now they have a really nice office above Huntington Physical Therapy on 3rd Avenue or 5th Avenue. I'm sorry. And I think there's 14 or 15 authors now.
Dang.
And then 304 hit, and Barbersville closed the town down. We did this big writer's block thing in the community center, and I had to launch there. Yeah, I mean, this blew up.
Wow.
So that's the timeline. It exploded into something so awesome that you just couldn't believe it.
Isn't that interesting that, excuse me. Mm-hmm. I have always been one that, because my entrepreneur, intuition, I guess that would be, I've always turned on a dime. Right. And I've always been sensitive to the door opening. Now, not everything has been a success for me. My coffee business was okay, but I shut that down. I turned on a dime, but I've never been without a food or a meal or whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I've taken some severe losses, very severe, and not only financially, but otherwise. But I think the nice thing about it is to keep walking through those doors. Okay.
Right.
You can't give up on yourself, and you can't give up on those doors that open. And so all it takes, and it's so cool to hear the story, all it takes is someone to say, yeah, go publish. Okay.
Yeah.
Go do it.
That's what happened.
And then to listen to all the freaking growth from you, from that company. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I say, well, that's a God wink right there. Okay. That he put it all in perspective for you, and all this history about, having fun, growing up and everything, I think has a significant role in how we determine our decision-making process as an adult. Mm-hmm. And I think it has a lot of tie there. Not that I was majoring in psychology, but this is not Psych 101. But I think that it is amazing. And so you had some setbacks along the way, correct?
Yes, I did. And, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, tell me about some of the setbacks. I mean, you wrote 50 pages, and then you know what? And I think I shared with you, I would love to put the Go Biz Guy into a book format.
Yeah, you should.
Well, I have a lot of hesitations. I can't write. I don't, I can't, I don't know. But so tell me a little bit about your setbacks.
Okay. When I started Afterwards, mm-hmm. Okay, and I got 50 pages in, and then I realized as I'd gotten, because the way I write, I do not do it the way a normal writer does. I write the ending first.
Oh, wow.
And then I connect the dots.
Oh, wow.
I do the ending, the beginning, and I do the middle. I had no idea where I was going to go with this.
Okay.
So we had done this massive fundraising campaign that had done over $2,500. Okay. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I'm in the middle of this book. And I'm like, how am I going to connect here to here? Okay. And then, I was really, because it's not writer's block, but it's fear, because I was like, I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to fail. And the night before this book come out, I was like, okay, all the people that fundraised me were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what about the other people? I can't just sell to my buddies.
Right.
So I went through a moment where I was like really afraid to do shows. And really afraid to push the book because I'm like, well, what if they don't like it? And I know that's kind of crazy.
No,
that way.
No.
But as a creative person, you're afraid that people. It was once I did I did a Comic-Con, and like 5 or 6 people had bought my book, and after that, LJ, I swear, I started getting all this positivity, and it just fed my. It fed it. So I got right to work on 304, and then personal tragedy started setting me back, and to the point that I was going to quit because I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything creative. And then I thought about that would really make those people mad if I would quit.
Yeah.
So I became bent, and now I have 3 projects that will be out within the next year and a half, maybe 2.
Wow.
My next book is called American Illusion, which is
awesome.
I can't wait for it. Then I got one called Based and one called Vile.
Based and Vile. Those sound almost like harmoniously to go together. Based and Vile.
Well, the best part about this is that I don't stick to a genre. I'm all over the place.
Okay.
My first thing was a drama. My second book was a horror book. This one coming is a thriller, and then the one after that's a comedy.
I love it. And that, like I said, man, I don't have that creativity. If I did a book, it would just be, blah, 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 blah. But if I could transcribe all the podcasts, I think it'd be quite interesting for reading. But I don't have your creativity, and I think the journeys. But look, getting back to fear. Mm-hmm. All the entrepreneurs that have ever established a business has a fear. Okay. Yeah. And it's a normal fear because you don't know who's going to buy your product. You don't know what's going to happen next. And fear is a mojo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
it can literally paralyze you, and that's what it did to me. Yeah. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I just, I think that when people take a look at the deciding thoughts that you had beginning your journey, did you have any fear as a teenager to just dabble in this, or what was your deciding thought?
When I was a teen, and I'm being honest with you, I thought that people wouldn't like my ideas. That it was that the stuff that I did is way out there. And people that have read afterwards that know me personally as a person, the first thing that they've said to me when they read that book is, this is not what I expected from you. My own son, my flesh and blood, when he read afterwards, the first thing he come to me and said, and it's the reason why 304 Monsters is a horror book. He goes, this is not what I expected from you at all. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, this is way different than anything, So that's my thing is I always feel that you should be, if you're creative, you should push the boundary of what you believe you can do.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. But I know that this is more of a business focused podcast. So what I
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I also want to throw this in there. I do want to throw this in there. Okay. It is very hard to make good money in this business.
Oh, I bet.
It is.
Yep.
It is very hard. Okay. Because there's, especially with the rise of AI, I don't know if you know this, Amazon had to lock down how many books you could release in a certain amount of time because people were just letting AI write books and releasing them.
Yeah. Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing that. And the thing is, AI, if you've ever read an AI created story, there's such a lack of a human element. It feels robotic.
I totally agree with you because a lot of my intros, like I'll take an intro bio from somebody and I'll run it through AI. Well, it summarizes it and it gives us a little bit more, anyway, AI is dangerous in a lot of ways.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that I think there's going to be a massive backlash against the AI over the next couple of years.
Okay.
I think that people that are in the music field, the author field, especially as it starts being able to do video and doing video more, I think people are going to be like, no, this is the uncanny valley. It doesn't feel human is the best way to describe it. And that's one of the things, like, for example, AI tools. Everybody asks me, do you use any AI tools when you write your work? I do. I use one thing. It's a search engine that I have that I use. It instead of like it being normal search engine, I have it being AI'd and more conversational. Mm-hmm. Like if I ask it, like go back to it, well, who killed, Abraham Lincoln, and it starts in about John Wilkes Booth, it tells me a little bit about him.
Right.
Like, it summarizes for me, so I don't have to go click into, because I do that in my work. I have to research.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is, you can make money at this, but you have to have enough content out there. You have to, and it's a drive, but now I'm starting to see the rewards of my work. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. So let's go back to your fundraising. Okay. So you raised $2,500. Mm-hmm. And at $2,500, you paid for your publication. You paid for the publisher's fees or whatever, and then mm-hmm. you actually had to buy inventory from them, and then sell that inventory to get back your $2,500. Is that how this works?
No, that's not how this works at all. What the Henlo Press did for me, and how they did it is they set up the fundraiser, and then I would sell myself. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is how it's going. And enough people believed in me that on $15 books, we got $2,500. Okay. So what that $2,500 went to, okay, because my publishing company, the Henlo Press, they have editors there, and they have a phenomenal editing staff, by the way.
Okay.
And, they make me sound a lot smarter than I really am.
That's what they're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell them all the time, hey, take this, make me sound not dumb.
Right.
So they took it and what they did is that $2,500 went to inventory. That was it. All went to inventory. That got sold out. That went out to the people that paid to back it, and they got their books, and they were happy. And then what went from there is I bought my books, they bought their books, and we started doing shows. And then we would sell it on Amazon, and then Ingram Press was selling it, who's actually the company that makes the books.
Okay.
And then 304, we did another fundraiser just to garner interest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I smashed my last one, almost got near $3,000 on that one. And, and people went crazy for this one too. I don't know if we'll do a fundraiser for American Illusion. We might just, hey, here it is, pick it up when you can.
Because I think that lends itself into a kind of a marketing strategy and everything. And I don't want to get personally, but so the ROI has to be enough in order to fund the next book or
mm-hmm.
For you to make a living or whatever the object is here, but
yes.
or the objective. And so I think, it's kind of like you have to start out, with this, and then you build that brand, right?
Right. And that's what we built.
Yeah. And once you build that brand, it's kind of like the Go Biz guy is starting to brand and everything. Okay. I mean, it's, it is what it is. I mean, so I think that you keep at it, and not that it's built, so much that I've got tens of thousands of listeners, but it's growing. Mm-hmm. And so branding is so important, for the marketing. And so you go down the road and guess what? This I'm going to throw this out here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So with your creativity, and this is a suggestion, that you create a movie, and it's all done here in West Virginia about one of your books.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you know that, right? I mean, go ahead.
Well, that's kind of the goal. That's something that we've all talked about, is they're like, wouldn't 304 Monsters really work well as like a streaming show? And I said it would be absolutely incredible, because you didn't have to focus on just one thing, and
right.
You could move around. And I said, and it's set in the state.
Yeah.
Because and that is kind of the goal, because here's my end game. Everybody asks me, Steve, what's your end game? And I think this is something that you'll really appreciate. My end game is just that. Is that there's a royalty check coming in, so that my daughter will be very comfortable when I'm gone.
Right.
That's my goal. That's my goal. Because if I was in my 30s, it might be, I'd like to get a boat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But that's not where I am now in my life, and I understand that, and I think about my family and Lily's kids, and
right.
and my wife, in case something happens, and that's what I want.
Go ahead. No, I mean, go ahead. I think I can see you behind being a director of all this, and wearing sunglasses and a hat, and smoking a pipe with a camera over your shoulder is what I can see.
I don't want to do that part, though.
You don't want to direct? You don't want to direct?
Here's the part I do like, okay? This is the part I do like, because at the end of the day, okay, and this is the one thing that has really set me apart from a lot of other people, okay, I am an entertainer.
Yeah.
When I go and do these shows, or I go and do a panel, I put on a show for people.
Okay.
Barboursville is going to do a haunted tour.
Okay.
On the 26th of October, and they asked me to be a tour guide.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to tear up. People are going to be just like, what is going on?
Okay. All right.
That's my job.
Yeah.
Okay? And that sells my books. Okay. And that's the thing. But I don't want to, my favorite part of this, okay, is when I'm alone in my little office, because here's how I do it. I put on an album. And this makes me mad, and I hope Henlo hears this, and I hope they all know this too, and I want everybody to know this, that they stole something from you. What I do is I put on an album before I write. I pick an album, and I put it on.
Okay.
Okay? And I listen to that entire album, and I slink away into a zone, and I start writing.
Okay.
Okay. Every chapter of every book I've ever written had a chapter title that was the album that I was listening to when I wrote that thing. And they always remove them in my final drafts.
That's funny.
Yeah, so people won't get to know it. And I feel that they stole that from the people, and it makes me mad. So I hope they hear this, and I hope they understand. People are upset that they didn't get to know what I was listening to.
That's hilarious. And so you don't want to direct. You just rather somebody else take this ball and run with it, and you get a royalty check. Okay.
Well, I'm more into this part of it, because here's the thing. If every time I've ever watched I would never be able to put what's in my head to film. It just wouldn't, because I know it wouldn't look right.
All right.
And let someone else just do that part, because I feel that the creative part of creating the world is the best part.
Okay.
Okay. And I think that the best part about a book, I'm not showing you. I'm letting your imagination run with how this looks, how this feels, how this tastes. You understand what I mean?
No, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'd much rather that part be the guy that gives you that part than gives you the, hey, look, this is what this looks like. You understand? I want you to take how does she sound? Okay. I don't want to tell you how she sounds. I want you to hear her voice in your head.
Okay. No.
That's my favorite part.
Awesome. So, if you were to kind of like summarize this, and you were to say to somebody and I want to give you some time to tell people how they can get your books. But how would you summarize somebody that's looking to start a book or start a something from their basement? What would you recommend they do?
Okay, there are so many ways to self-publish now. Okay. But I am going to give you a word of advice. I'll give you the two best things I can tell a starting writer. And there's actually a young girl that came around that's a big fan of Afterwards and 304 and has talked to me about writing her own stuff. And I told her, I said, well, the number one thing you need to do is when you start, don't stop. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, don't go back. Don't change anything. Get your first draft done. That's the most important thing I can tell anyone.
Okay.
Number two, find an editor.
Okay.
Get you an editor. If you don't have one, you're not going to do this right. It's just, you're not good enough to self-edit. It's just, because in your head, you have an idea. Okay. And they're like, oh, well, you didn't mention this before. There's so many things that can go wrong.
Okay.
Get an editor.
Right.
But then Amazon can help you publish. Ingram can help you publish. And there's so many places, especially like the Henlo Press. Okay. The Henlo Press and things like that. They will work with you. If your story's even remotely good, they can help you go to it. And there's a lot of people now there's some really bad ones that want you to pay them to publish your stuff. Okay. I don't like those.
Right. Okay.
I'm not a fan of that stuff.
Okay.
But it's so easy now to put your book out there. You just got to be able to sell yourself and market yourself. And do it. And so, I tell anybody, if you dream of doing this, do it. I did it at 47, 48 years old.
Okay.
It can be done.
Okay.
It can be done.
So how would people find your books, if they were interested in reading one of your books?
The number one place you should go to is thehenlopress.com.
Okay.
They have me, and they have a lot of the other people that I work with that are on there.
Okay.
Like Amanda Hoosier, Caitlin Pace, people I've mentioned earlier in this podcast, they're there.
Okay.
But I'm also everywhere. You can get my books on Walmart.com, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, bam. I'm everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm worldwide.
Awesome. I can kind of relate to that. Okay, good.
Yeah, you can get me anywhere. So,
okay. All right.
304 Monsters is the book I released in February of 2024. It has had an extremely high positive reception. Afterwards, I did in 2022. Also, very high positive reaction. And the Monster Guide. The Monster Guide is only available on Amazon. Amazon published and did that themselves.
Okay. 304 Monster. You got to have a sweatshirt for that, don't you?
I do. I have several sweatshirts. They're everywhere. They're at Cabell Midland. They're at the mall.
Yeah, I'd almost like to have a extra large. I think that'd be kind of cool. Can you get them in black?
They all are in black.
Oh, I love it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll work with you. I want one. So listen, thank you so much. I'm going to just kind of read the sponsorship and then we'll let go of each other. Listen, you got to get some Lem's Varnish, okay? It's just not another meat sauce. It's a champion. Their sauces, and by the way, it originated in South Charleston, West Virginia, have multiple awards, the best sauce barbecue in competition throughout the South. When you taste their secret recipe, you will understand why it's a winner. And listen, this fire syrup jalapeno is the bomb, man. You can put it on just about anything. It's a simple syrup, hot squirt genius of 104 uses. Get you some on Amazon.com. Get you some on Amazon.com today. Listen, Steve, thank you so much for being on here, and look forward to continuing the conversation at a later date.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you when we release another one.
Yes. Take care, man. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.